Now in bass tutorials and general things, we do a lot with this hand over here. The one that does all the fretting, all the notes, and we work on all the hand positions and just making sure that we've got this hand in check. But often this one over here gets forgotten about, and bass picking is a thing which takes time to master and get good at. So I'm going to take you through the steps on how to get this hand playing up to scratch and become a master at your bass picking. So let's get into it. Now it can seem a really odd concept, and also by looking at people doing this bass picking, it may look like something else, and you may think it's something else as well. Like a lot of people who don't play saxophone think the reed goes on the top rather than on the bottom. I've just seen it a lot, okay? It's a common misconception. With bass, there's a common thing where beginners will pluck the strings, pull the strings up when they try this technique, because that's what they think. Yeah, you pluck it like, you know, you pluck it with a pick. You pull up, you use your fingers like you would a pick. And, you know, for a pick, that's not really what a pick's actually doing. Where you're doing that plucking motion, the pick is just pressing into the string and pressing through the string. And that's ultimately what you want to do with your hand, is press the string through. You can see here, or you should be able to hear, that I'm not plucking. That's what plucking and picking sounds like. You can see how it's a bit sort of harsher. If I press through, I know it sounds similar, but you can see how my hand position has to change for that to work, and how I'm way less consistent. I can't get my bass plucking consistent like I'm doing there if I'm plucking the strings up, and it gets worse on higher strings. So, you know, you press the string down, and what I mean by press isn't like just push it down like it's a button, but it's sort of press through it. So if you've got your thumb here, hopefully you've got it grounded on a pickup of some sort. Let's just focus on the E string for the time being. So if we're playing the E, ground it on any sort of pickup you want. I don't want it over here or here or here or whatnot. I want it on top of the pickup. Now your bass might not have this pickup, because most of you probably don't have stingrays. But just find this like little black box coming out of your bass. You know what your pickups are probably, but if you don't, there's these little things that come out, and you should be able to rest your thumb on the top of them. If you're playing the E string, rest your thumb there, ground it, keep it pretty straight. Don't really bend it or curve it, keep it pretty straight, and then this hand comes over sort of like that sort of shape. Yes, the wrist angle is a bit steep, perhaps it's less steep when you have it. Mine's a bit like that, sort of drapes over this part of the bass. This part's deliberately shaped so you can put your hand here pretty comfortably, and then yeah, get your finger in, thumb sort of not directly parallel to it, sort of like your thumb isn't just right on the back. I've sort of got it angled to the side slightly, sort of a 45-degree angle with my thumb facing towards the bass there. And then I'm pressing through the string into my thumb rather than any other part of me. I'm pressing through into my thumb. This first finger goes straight into the top of my thumb, and the second finger sort of comes around the side, and they're the different, you know, ways my fingers land there. You can use 3, but for today we're just focusing on 2, and it alternating going, you know, first, second, first, second, first, second, first, second, first, second. And ultimately you're going to need to do a lot of just playing an open string and just getting used to that bass plucking technique. Essentially, you should be able to talk, have conversation through it, and keep that consistent as well. In the sort of early days, you'll struggle to, you know, keep it all reasonably consistent, and you'll want a metronome for this, and start slower tempos. Don't immediately just absolutely rapid fire go all over the strings like that. No, start like really slow like this, and just go through it and keep going and get a metronome going and start doing that. Of course, I haven't got a metronome on at the moment, so that probably wasn't perfectly in time, but do that and then you can do it. Remember, first, second, but you always want this on beat 1. If it's an upbeat in a bar, you start on your second finger. If it's a quick note before, and 1 and 1. So that's going second, first, and 1 and 1 and 1, because this one sort of should be weaker as such. Like, this is for the stronger beats, and then this second finger, your middle finger, is for all the weaker beats in the bar. essentially, because it's a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's the ands if you're playing quavers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then, you know, for 16ths it's different again. But it's all the sort of offbeats that go on that aren't on the 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's what you're doing in this hand. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You just add that second finger in essentially and really press the string, don't pluck the string. That's the main thing which I say you'll find you get a much better tone, and you won't be really hurting your fingers as much as you would be. You will get blisters and things like that, and I still get blisters from time to time, especially if I've taken a little break for a bit perhaps. But, you know, it's a sign of your good effort and your good work. But, you know, just don't pull up the strings, don't pluck the strings, don't just do all that. Just press the string through into your thumb lightly and delicately. I'm barely putting any pressure on the strings as I'm doing this, because often playing lightly is the best way to do things. But there's one more thing which I'm going to talk about with this hand, because it's got one more job to do. And it's, what if you want to play some other strings? If you want to play anything on the E string, fine, you can sound the pickup, but I can't reach all the way over to the G string. There's another issue which I often find. People stick to a position and are grounded to it and then don't move their thumb at all, and they bend their hand over like this. This is not what you want to do, and you need to actively think about this when you start doing it. Once you know, if I just play something, it's second nature. You can probably see, look, my finger's going down as I go towards the G string, and then it goes back to the pickup, and all it's doing is gliding across and back down. And you know, it goes all the way up to the D string. Sometimes my thumb's on the D string. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring out my G there. So it's on the D string, the A string, the E string, or the pickup. And you've got to actively think to yourself what string you're on demands what. And my general rule really is whatever string you want, you sort of go one step down from it. Although usually, if I'm playing the G, I'll usually be on the A. Sometimes I go down to the D, you can think of it. If you're on the E string, have your finger on the pickup. If you're playing the A string, have your finger on the E string. If you're playing the D string, finger on the A string. You can keep your finger on the A string for the G string, but you can go to the D string as well for that G string. And if you can just glide your finger up and down, and you can see my thumb's moving from all these positions and it's gliding in between, and then that's how my finger's moving, because that's how you get the dexterity to go, you know, whatever you want over the fingerboard essentially, and you can do all of that sort of stuff. But you do need to focus on one thing with your thumb once you're past the E string. If you're on your E string, it's fine, and for muting, you're keeping it muted. But if you're on the A, make sure your thumb's resting on the E, because it's going to keep that muted. And for the D, my thumb is resting on the A and the E strings to stop them from ringing out, because it is another issue. And if you want cleaner tone, you've got to make sure you're blocking those strings. My thumb is simply just resting sort of sideways, just on the strings, and then I'm picking it, and only that string is ringing out. I'm not putting pressure on the strings. I'm just as lightly as just resting my hand on them. I don't want to be pressing in, digging in, doing all sorts of things. That's going to scuff up the side of your thumb here. So don't do that. Just gently on the side is enough. So that's my tips for bass plucking technique mastering. If you remember, press the strings and you know to move your thumb when you go up and down the strings, and you get that down, you are a master already at doing all this stuff, as well as the consistent picking technique. Then you've got it essentially, and then you can bass pick technique. So build it up over time, because it does take time, and hopefully this has taught you something, and now you know where you're going when you're doing your next bass tune, and you can start incorporating some proper bass plucking rather than using a pick if you're doing that at the moment, or some incorrect plucking. So that's it for today's video. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.